and guaranteed this lonely high. Our once together will never part.
This is a recording studio. Here, producers, sound engineers, and musicians are making decisions about the process they will use to record a lead vocal. When we use creative problem solving, we also need to make decisions. The first decision you must make is whether creative problem solving is appropriate for your task. In their book, Creative Approaches to Problem Solving, Scott Isaacson, Brian Dorval, and Don Treffinger state that creative problem solving works best when your task is ill-defined, complex, and requires some different approaches or novel solutions. It should be a challenge you are genuinely interested in working on, one in which you have some influence or decision-making authority, and for which you seek novel or imaginative solutions. Creative problem solving is inappropriate when you know the answer or if there's a simple yes or no solution. Creative problem solving can be used effectively by one person or with a team. If you apply creative problem solving in a group, it's important to have well-defined roles for the session. Know who the person is who owns the challenge. Is it the entire team or is it a specific member of the group? The person who owns the task and has primary decision-making authority is the client. The people who generate options or ideas to deal with the challenge are members of the resource group. Sometimes an entire team owns the task and all members share clientship. When working with a group in your organization, use a facilitator to manage the creative problem-solving process and keep the group on track. The facilitator is not involved in the actual content of the session and is almost never the team leader. Choose as facilitator someone who does not share ownership in the problem to be solved. Before convening a session, the client and the facilitator must meet to determine the nature of the task, whether it's appropriate for creative problem solving, whether it's appropriate for a group, and if so, where to focus the group's efforts. The resource group may be used to help the client understand the problem better, to generate ideas, or to plan a strategy for action. Sometimes this client-facilitator planning meeting doesn't just result in clarifying the problem, but in solving it. If insights arise at this meeting that provide the answer, it may not be necessary to convene the larger group. Now we'll watch a group meeting in which participants generate ideas to solve a problem. To prepare for this session, the client and facilitator first spent time understanding the problem on which creative problem solving would be used. We headlined the challenge with the phrase, "It would be nice if." Then, to generate data about the situation, I asked the client several key questions. What's a brief history of your situation? Who is involved in this situation? Who is the decision maker? Is it you, or do you need the support of others to implement the solution? Why is this a concern for you? Why might this be an opportunity for you? When would you like to have action take place on this situation? What have you already thought of or tried? That question keeps us from reinventing the wheel. Finally, I asked the client to dream a little. If you could have your ideal wish that would solve this problem completely, what might it be? Then we diverged, let our thoughts run free, and generated numerous problem statements. We begin problem statements with the phrases, "In what ways might we?" "How to?" or "How might we?" For example, in what ways might we reduce the time it takes to change over a line? How to make our meetings more productive? How might we get more people to attend our trade show? After diverging, the client converged, selecting the key problem statement for which ideas were most needed. Finally, we summarized all the information on a flip chart. It was time to convene the group. Thanks for coming to help us out with our challenge today. Scott and I met earlier in our client facilitator planning meeting to prepare for this session, and Scott's isolated a situation he wants to work on, and he's come up with a headline for that situation. He's also prepared some key data about the situation and has also come up with a focused problem statement. In a minute, I'm going to ask Scott to give us that headline, share some key data about the situation, and then give us the focused problem statement. While Scott is sharing that key data, make sure that you're jotting down a few initial ideas on Post-its so that when we do open it up and begin to solve the problem, we'll have some ideas to start with. Scott, can you give us the headline on the situation you want to work on? Go ahead.
Sure. It would be nice if we could motivate all of our existing customers to install additional gas equipment in their homes without spending additional promotional or advertising dollars.
In our client facilitator planning meeting, we generated some key data about this situation. What is a brief history of this situation?
Well, in the past, there's been minimal effort spent on selling additional gas equipment in our marketing efforts. And also, there's been relatively little knowledge in terms of what equipment and the benefits of that equipment for customers is.
Okay.
And in addition to that, the trade support has been somewhat minimal as well, and because of that, the low product availability.
Okay. Scott, who's involved in this situation?
Well, we at Niagara Mohawk Gas Marketing are involved in this particular area, and also the equipment trade groups.
Terrific. Who's the decision maker in this situation? In other words, when we leave, who's the person that's going to be making the decisions about the ideas that we implement, the ideas we do something about?
I will be the one that makes the decisions about this.
Why is this a concern for you?
Well, in the past, we've had declining loads, declining revenues as a result of conservation and the efforts that have been spent over the last few years in having more efficient equipment put out in the market.
And let's turn it around a little bit. Why might this be an opportunity for you?
Well, this is an opportunity for us to add additional equipment and in turn add additional revenues that we might get from these products. And secondarily, and maybe more importantly, to increase satisfied customers and increase our opportunity to satisfy customers.
When would you like to have some action taken on this?
I'd like to have it take place today if we can.
And finally, so we're not reinventing the wheel, what have you already thought of or tried in relation to this situation?
We have tried several things, and in fact, in the past we've done co-op advertising program with our trade groups. We've had various customer incentives, we've had trade incentives, and also promotions and advertising.
Terrific. Let's dream just a little bit. What might your ideal goal or your ideal wish be in relation to this situation?
Well, as you all know, our ideal goal would be to have 100% saturation for all these products. So that's really what our goal is.
Terrific. Now we've got the key data here. We've also worked to come up with a focused problem statement, and we've isolated that problem statement on which the group will get some ideas for you. Would you just read that problem statement off to the group so that we can kind of get started with that? Go ahead.
How might we create customer demand for collateral equipment sales so that suppliers, installers, and other outlets stock, promote, and sell this equipment?
Folks, do you have any brief questions for Scott before we get started here?
Roger, I do. Scott, do we have any current statistics on what our market share is for collateral equipment?
Yes, we do, and it's right on your sheet in front of you, and that gives you most of the data that you're looking for.
Scott, are we also looking to maximize the dollars we have now without spending additional dollars?
We have some latitude to use some additional dollars, but I want to minimize that as much as we can.
Okay, great. Now, remember we're going to be using some brainstorming here, so deferred judgment, no criticism, strive for quantity. I'd like you to come up with about 80 ideas. We'll take about 15 minutes for that. Freewheel, the wilder the ideas, the better. It's much easier to tame down a wild idea than to invigorate a weak one. Build on other ideas. Let one idea spur another idea and spur another idea. Now, we're using brainstorming with Post-its, so remember, say your idea, write it down, give it to me. Say your idea, write it down, and give it to me. Okay? Go ahead. What have we got?
Home improvement seminars.
Home improvement seminars. Great, thanks.
More training, perhaps refresher classes.
Terrific, great. Keep them coming. Going for 80.
Education classes.
Thanks, good.
Contractor training for CSST. Now, CSST is the method of installing a pipe that's very flexible. Goes in like electric cable.
Great, thanks, Dick. Good. It is crucial to follow the 4 guidelines for brainstorming if you want to get maximum productivity from your idea-generating sessions. The first guideline is deferred judgment, no criticism. When generating ideas, don't criticize your ideas or the ideas of others in the group. Translated into behaviors, this means no sarcasm. Write ideas down. Don't make funny faces at other people's ideas. Get involved. I've found it helpful to set a time limit of 10 to 15 minutes when you're generating ideas. Most people can hold off their judgment for that amount of time. After the time limit is up, or when you've generated some workable solutions to the problem, you can then evaluate the ideas. But do not try to generate and evaluate ideas at the same time. Second guideline, strive for quantity. The more ideas you generate, the greater are your chances of coming up with good ideas. An effective brainstorming session is not generating 4 ideas in 5 minutes, it is generating 40 ideas in 5 minutes. To get that kind of quantity, I've found it helpful to set an idea quota for the session. 40 ideas in 5 minutes is not unreasonable for a trained group.
Folks, it looks like you're slowing down a little bit. Let's try a technique to help us to get this flow of ideas going again, create some novel connections, and maybe think out of the box a little bit more. The technique is called forced relationships, and the way it works is that we take a totally unrelated object or situation and try and force a relationship or make a connection between that object or situation and the problem that Scott's working on. So the object I've got for us is this cush ball right here. What ideas might you get for solving Scott's problem of how might we create customer demand for collateral equipment sales from this cush ball? Let's see what we come up with. What ideas might we get from this cush ball for solving Scott's problem? What do we got?
No strings attached.
Got it. Good. Jot it down.
Bounce our incentive payments through the system quicker.
Good. Okay. All right.
Bounce back cards for leads and dealer locations.
Nice. Good. Okay. Others?
Give away a cush ball to every customer we're targeting with a message on it.
Beautiful. Jot it down. Good.
Collateral equipment in a virtual plethora of colors.
A plethora of colors. Wonderful. Okay.
The third guideline for brainstorming is freewheel. The wilder the ideas, the better. Alex Osborne, the inventor of brainstorming, once said, "It's easier to tame down a wild idea than to invigorate a weak one." So whatever comes to mind, jot it down. If you find yourself slowing down, try the forced relationship technique. Final guideline: combination and improvement are sought. Build on other ideas. Let one idea spur another idea and spur another idea.
Scott, we've got about 95 ideas for solving your problem here. Do you think we have enough ideas to get started?
I think we have just about enough.
Terrific. All right. What I'd like you to do is take some of these dots then, peel them off, put them on the Post-its that have the ideas on them that look good to you, that would ideally solve the problem for you. And then what we'll do is we'll group those ideas that you've marked together in themes and use the ALU technique to evaluate and build those ideas. Okay? Okay, great. There you go.
As you can see, it is the client's job to converge, or select the ideas that look the most promising. Group the selected ideas that relate to each other into categories, and then, working with other members of the team or individually, refine those ideas for action.
It's important to understand that the creative problem-solving process is flexible. The example you just saw emphasized idea generation and evaluation. But creative problem-solving can also be used to help you better understand the problem and to help you plan for effective action. Let's review the pathway through the creative problem-solving process we used. First, we identified a general area on which to apply creative problem-solving. It is important that this is a situation that the client can do something about. We headlined this challenge with the phrase, "It would be nice if." Then, we gathered some data about the situation. Next, diverge. Generate many different ways to state the problem. Begin problem statements with the phrases, "In what ways might we?" "How might we?" or "How to?" Then converge and select the problem statement that clearly identifies the direction on which to generate ideas. The group generated many different ideas for solving the client's problem. The next step was to converge, select the most promising ideas, and use the advantages, limitations, and unique qualities technique to refine and build those ideas for action.